Hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new skill discussion. We're going to be tackling Shamanism today, and if you missed the taming talk, link in the description and card up top, but let's get right into it. So what the fuck's a shaman, huh? In general, you're going to think of a shaman as a natural magical practitioner. They're going to use nature as healing or kind of defensive spells. They may even be able to manipulate the elements air, earth, water, and fire, but we can already do that, so don't worry about it. The standout feature of shamans is going to be their communication with the spirit world and the dead, and maybe even being able to draw power from that connection. Seeing as they focus on natural magic, they do kind of get mistaked for druids or witches sometimes, but druids turn into animals, witches make curses and potions, and then shamans talk to the dead. So they're kind of the same, as in they have the same source of magic, but they do completely different things. Although I will totally concede the fact that shamanism sounds weird, druidism doesn't sound cool either, but witchcraft is absolutely the name we should have went with, even if we're not actually using witchcraft. But being a witch doctor would totally fit. So Jagex has already kind of given a couple of ideas for what they're going to provide for shamanism, and I want to separate it into a few different areas. The spirit world, rituals, totems, and the different kinds of items and foraging stuff that we could see a part of shamanism. And I'm going to do that from order of interesting, so obviously I'm going to be doing the foraging stuff first. And yes, that's me saying it's the least interesting one. We'd be able to find foraging stuff around pretty much anywhere in Gielinor, and it would probably just be introducing a few new drops to some monsters, or introducing new areas where we'd be able to pick from different kinds of plants, maybe even in the spirit world too, some mushrooms, who knows. But with all of these ingredients that we were able to forage together, we'd be able to make different kinds of potions, salves, and poultices to be able to perform our shamanic tradition. I would imagine there'd be countless types of effects that could come with this, but a heavy connection with the spirit world or undead is always welcome for a shaman. Next up, we're going to be talking about rituals. And yes, I feel like rituals are kind of cool, but they're not the coolest thing about a shaman. When you're able to perform a ritual, it's essentially just a long spell. And from what I can tell in the blog post, it looks like rituals are just going to be your version of imbuing items. I do hope there will be a few more rituals, like maybe being able to go into the spirit world on your own, see people in the spirit world when you're in the normal world, or maybe even summoning different types of undead or resummoning an undead that you just killed. But if we were just going to leave it to item imbues, there's so much that can come with that. If it wasn't just a flat strength, defense, or magic bonus, we could get really specific with like defense bonuses or attack bonuses for stab, slash, crush, magic, ranged, and there's even like magic defense or percentage as well. All of these things could be given a +1, +2, but could you imagine if we could apply that to all of our equipment? So before I start heading into raids, I'd be able to apply all of my equipment a +2 to crush. Obviously this would degrade over time, but that's like an extra 10 to 15 attack to start off with. And yes, that would be great for strength or even defense. And it could come in clutch for some people who don't have access to some of the better equipment, or some people who are kind of item locked. After rituals, we're going to be moving into a much more powerful version of magic for shamans, and that's totems. Totems are essentially a spell that you've saved onto your memory card. Think about it like that. So you've put a fire spell on your memory card and you just set your totem down and it's able to shoot fire spells. That would be awesome, especially if it was on a time limit. It would kind of be like a thrall, but a stationary thrall. And that wouldn't be limited to just fire spells. What if it was a temporary teleport other to Lumbridge? So if you ran to that totem, you'd be tellied out. If you had a totem at your feet, it might give a slight regeneration effect. Maybe it could even give a shielding effect while you're in the area of that totem. There's so many things that could be given to a totem, and combat utility for this could be immense. So that's why we really need to be careful if we're going to toy with totems and spell effects, because that's why they're right next to the spirit realm as far as interesting. And the spirit realm is the most interesting thing about shamanism. Everyone wants to look at sailing and say, oh, it's gonna add so much shit under the water. Great. But you know what? Shamanism is adding the spirit world, which doubles the entirety of walkable space in RuneScape. It's literally giving you a parallel dimension that you're able to walk through. That would be 1 for 1 the land of RuneScape. And yes, at first that might seem kind of scary, but it may just be relegated to the gathering and foraging supplies, or maybe there's new Slayer monsters that inhabit this area, and we're able to pop in and out of these Shamanism portals that you would be able to find all over Gielinor. In my opinion, those portals should be in higher concentration of dead, like you'd see them in Canifis, or even a good example over here is close to the Lizardmen Shamans. I wouldn't say it fits in lore-wise, but it does fit in as far as looks in this swampy area. But the reason why I have to say the spirit world has got to be the coolest thing that we could include in Old School RuneScape is because if you look at any other piece of fiction, it's absolutely a key element into game design or the story. If we were able to access the spirit world, it'd essentially be like going to the Nether in Minecraft. Not all the fire and brimstone, but as you might be able to see in this blog post picture here, it'd be kind of like a purplish hue, and the things that were dead would be brought to life. And what better place than the realm of the dead for the gods to exist in? And you guys might be blown away by this, but there's more than 22 gods in Old School RuneScape. I know, I was blown away by that too. I thought it was just a normal 6. But if we want to make the spirit world really interesting, each one of these gods could have their own territory within the spirit world. And whenever you get close to their specific territory, the spirit world starts to shift and form into whatever type of god that they are. So let's say we're going over to Saradomin's territory, it begins to look like a bright shining star. You'd be able to see her holiness in the statues and the sun shining through. But on the opposite sides, we'd be walking into Zamorak's territory, where there really would be the fire, the brimstone, chaos would be abound, the sky would be red, and the monsters would be immense. But as far as the spirit world goes, it's ridiculous how much potential it has. It's literally a whole new world. It's right in the name, spirit world. But in general, those are just a couple of ideas that I've got for just the mechanics around shamanism. That's not to say the countless amount of bosses, minigames, quests, and lore that could be introduced around shamanism. And if we were gonna start a central point for shamanism, I pick the Taibawanai jungle. But if you guys have a better idea for where shamanism should start in RuneScape, let me know. The fact that it could introduce a new spell or prayer book, and the fact that it could connect to so many different kinds of skills like herb lore, slayer, and crafting, with countless combat and utility uses for totems or rituals, shamanism to me seems like a pretty safe bet. I do want to say again that these are just a couple of ideas that I was throwing out. We have a bare bones idea of what shamanism could be, and a lot of this is probably going to change. But for me, I think I will be voting for shamanism because of the sheer potential it has. You don't feel like you have to vote yes or no to a specific skill. If you don't want a skill at all, just vote no and we can get a couple new pitches. But what do you guys think? If you liked it, make sure to leave it down in the comments. And if you didn't like it, leave that too. But until next time, I'll see you all later. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.